Owen Sound's Main Street could be a great place. At the moment, it's not thriving. Why is that? Why are businesses leaving? If you live in the area, why don't you visit more often? When was the last time you walked along the main street? What impression do you have of our downtown? What do you think the city could do to make it a better place for people? A toddler running unattended down the middle of a road would normally be a cause for alarm. In this picture, however, taken in Kincardine in the summer of 2020, it's quite charming. That's when Kincardine closed off Queen Street to regular vehicle traffic, allowing this little one to run free in what would normally be a dangerous place. It also allowed vendors to open up pop-up stores, regular businesses to utilise the sidewalks. The council conducted a survey the following year with favourable results. 94% of respondents said they experienced no barriers to accessibility. 60% of businesses saw an increase in revenue compared to previous years. The remainder broke even. And this was during the pandemic. 66% of the people surveyed found that parking was still adequate, and this is what happens when a town is forward-thinking and turns their main street into a place for people rather than a road for cars. Owen Sound needs to try something different. That is why we should look to pedestrianise 2nd Avenue East. I'm going to share what great places have in common, compare our main street with other places, highlight the features of thriving downtowns, and finally, discuss the objections that some people will have to pedestrianisation. A great place is safe and accessible. It has natural features. It's a space where people can socialise. It's a desirable place in which people actually want to live. And it has a strong identity. Go online right now. Search for images of Owen Sound. You're not going to find these strip malls, box stores, or vast parking lots. Instead, it's the scenic city's quaint downtown stores, the harbour views and picturesque falls. We're a hub for the surrounding county and the gateway to the peninsula. We have natural beauty, endless trails, and access to the bay. Our downtown should be the focal point that ties all of these wonderful features together. The awkwardly named Owen Sound Harbour and Downtown Urban Design / Master Plan Strategy states that issues such as car dominance and unfriendly grey surfaces are prevalent downtown. It also says that there's a need for an enhanced pedestrian realm and the concentration of retail and pedestrian traffic on our main street, because if 2nd Avenue East is strong, the downtown is strong. 100 years ago, a bill passed to incorporate Owen Sound as a city. This was justified by the increase in manufacturing and shipping, the rail infrastructure, and population growth. This continued throughout the 1900s, but has since failed to match projections. It's obviously a priority for our town's leadership, but if they want Owen Sound to grow, it has to have a healthy heart. So what opportunity does our main street offer? Journey north on Highway 6, and you pass straight through Wyerton's main street. The same is true for places like Meaford, Port Elgin, Walkerton, Hanover, and many other towns. Some will see this as a positive. All those cars filled with potential customers driving through your town with the opportunity to stop at your local businesses. But is that really what happens? When you last drove to Toronto, did you stop in the likes of Shelburne to enjoy lunch or browse local stores? Of course not. If you stopped at all, it was for gas or the Timmy's drive-through. I say we are fortunate not to share a main street with the highway. We also have many alternate routes for local traffic. This means that a pedestrian zone would cause minimal disruption. Every time I read articles like these, hyping up communities that are desirable places to live, work and visit, Owen Sound is never mentioned. If you search for the best towns in Ontario, it's the same places that appear again and again. In fact, 2 towns in particular. So what makes them special? Niagara-on-the-Lake has been dubbed the most beautiful town in Ontario. It attracts 3.5 million visitors annually. They come to the historic streets and wineries. Yes, it's fairly close to the GTA and many other large towns, but so's Hamilton, and nobody wants to go there. The main boulevard's shaded sidewalks offer a pleasant pedestrian experience, and the large trees also create a traffic buffer. Some street parking has been converted to dining space, even though off-street spaces are very limited. The small town of Laura, welcomes 300,000 annual tourists. They're drawn by the scenic gorge and small town charm. A positive reputation entices visitors from the city and much further afield. The town boasts historic limestone buildings, a pedestrian bridge, a walkable market area. Otherwise, there is limited space for people. Most of the off-street parking is actually south of the river. Now let's compare these towns to Owen Sound. When viewed side by side, the difference is huge. Niagara-on-the-Lake and Elora attract huge numbers of people, despite offering a fraction of the parking. Visitors to Owen Sound are drowning in a sea of concrete that serves mostly vehicles. No one can look at a map of downtown Owen Sound and say that there isn't enough parking. Owen Sound has one major advantage over both Elora and Niagara-on-the-Lake. Our city is situated on a route taken by thousands of tourists heading to Sobble Beach or the Bruce Peninsula, whereas visitors have to go out of their way to visit these two towns. We only have to encourage people to stop in our town on the way to their destination, as opposed to being the destination itself. We don't have a flourishing wine industry or a picturesque gorge, but having visited both of these places, I found nothing particularly special about either of their main streets. Owen Sound can do better if we try something different. So how do we make a thriving downtown? First of all, it must be a street. A road is for cars, a street is for people. This town in South Carolina destroyed their downtown with unsightly barriers to keep people off the road. They prioritized cars over people and suffered as a result. Hamilton's one-way system seeks to improve traffic flow, but at the expense of pedestrians. These are roads. They do not belong in a town centre. This is what the centre of a town should look like. Amsterdam is one of the most pedestrian-friendly cities in the world. We're decades behind in North America in terms of bike infrastructure and public transport, but there's no reason why we can't apply one of their best ideas to our town. We need to stop building car-centric sprawl. The east side of our town is an awful place. People drive there, they buy stuff and leave. They don't spend more time there than they have to. The large expanses of concrete are hostile places. They're unfriendly to pedestrians. It is impractical to walk between the stores. There is no community space. The green spaces are not designed for people to enjoy. It is a cultural vacuum, and there is nothing smart about these retail centres. Do we really want to keep building more of this? The way people shop has changed, so downtown must offer an alternative experience, not found in big box stores or online. A thriving downtown should have a mixture of retail, dining, as well as entertainment. This encourages people to spend more time there, and therefore money. And clusters of similar stores are a net positive for all. Our main street must be the centre of community life, where people of all ages feel welcome. They can interact and help build strong social bonds. Remember, a street is a place. It's not just a route from point A to B. There should be cafes and restaurants spilling onto sidewalks, spaces for people to relax, hold community events. It should not just be a place to buy stuff. While some of the most popular downtowns have created more space for people by simply removing parking or expanding sidewalks, such changes are half measures. Many parking space patios that sprung up during COVID remain in place because they're so popular. But do people really want to dine next to loud traffic and exhaust fumes? Blue Mountain Village attracts thousands of visitors all year round, many of whom never go near the slopes. People are willing to drive great distances only to park their car and stroll around an artificially created urban space with its corporate restaurants and pseudo-Irish pub. Blue Mountain Village is a manufactured place. Our city core should offer an authentic experience for people. Instead, it's overwhelmingly a place for cars. The River District's Phase 2 flexible street plan will not address this huge imbalance. Personal vehicles take up far more space than the people driving them, and drivers miss interesting window displays. They can't stop on a whim to check out that new business. Cars don't spend money. We must make better use of our valuable downtown space. Whether it's live music, art shows, pop-up vendors, Christmas markets, or even for sporting events. We are blessed with a vibrant art scene. We have popular festivals that attract people from all over. We have an interesting history, but we need to make people proud of our downtown. So now for the objections. There are 5 main ones. Firstly, business owners will claim they cannot access their stores if the street is close to vehicles. This is a non-issue, as you simply make exceptions for businesses that need to unload goods. This is what happens elsewhere. Look at these vans parked on the extremely busy Carnaby Street in London. I visited Annecy, a town in France with medieval streets that have been used for centuries before the automobile. Somehow, people still manage to deliver goods to the many stores and restaurants. It is also more convenient for delivery drivers when regular car traffic is not blocking access. On a pedestrian street, with exceptions for delivery vehicles, you are guaranteed a space in front of your store. The next issue is mobility access. Closing the street to cars means you limit the access for many people. Except, in a larger walkable area with no curves to navigate, accessibility is improved for the elderly, those with mobility aids, or parents with strollers. Perhaps the biggest barrier for attracting people downtown is safety. Yes, we have our share of antisocial behaviour, drug use, and occasional acts of violence. Many of our less fortunate residents who frequent the area suffer from addiction and mental health issues. Such issues are often highly visible, and people are justified in avoiding the main street. However, these fears are often based on perception rather than reality. Opponents of pedestrianisation may argue that it will attract more of this behaviour. This is simply wrong. A bustling street with stores operating day and night, busy patios, and it encourages everyone to conform to societal norms. It doesn't actually cost anything to close off a street to vehicles. And a compact walkable downtown offers greater value per acre for a city's finances than car-centric developments when you factor in the cost of utilities, sewers, and endless road maintenance. In fact, almost $100,000 was spent by the River District for free parking, when some of this space could actually generate revenue. Land is the base resource from which community prosperity is built and sustained, and it must not be squandered. Some business owners may be against opening the street to people because their sales have not improved or even suffered when this was implemented during one-off events in the past. They are, however, not looking at the long-term impact that pedestrianisation has on a downtown. Of course, a special event day, such as the hospital hockey fundraiser, may have been detrimental for their sales. On such days, regular customers may have stayed away, and the people who did come downtown obviously did not come to shop. The whole point is to make the street an attractive place to be all the time, not just for one-off events. More people downtown more often will only benefit businesses. Citing poor sales during one-off events is akin to an unhealthy person complaining that the salad they ate last month did nothing for them. Anyone with sense knows that success requires sustained commitment. Perhaps the biggest objection is parking. A business owner might say that parking outside their store is essential for their survival. This is a perfectly logical point of view, except it falls apart under any scrutiny. When you drive to the mall, do you park outside the store? When you shop at a large box store, how far do you have to walk to get to the actual products you wish to purchase? There have been numerous studies that show reducing on-street parking can have a positive impact on retail, and the best model for parking in urban centres is a multi-storey car park. If only our town had space where we could accommodate one of those. How many people can actually parallel park? How many times have you had to circle the block hoping to find that free space before you gave up? And what about the snowbanks that are literal barriers between the road and the sidewalk? Let's look at Blue Mountain Village again. The closest parking is over 100 metres away, and if you've been there on a busy day, you'll know that you've had to walk much further than that. Compare it to Owen Sound at the same scale, and you can see just how far people are prepared to walk. Parking is simply not the barrier to a successful main street that many think it is. If you are still not convinced, let me share one more supporting reason. 2nd Avenue East is completely closed off during all of these events, yet they're attended by thousands of people. While they may not be there to shop on those days, they are able to get downtown even though parking is almost impossible to find. People will walk further, they'll leave their car at home, they'll figure it out because they have a reason to go. Our downtown businesses should not try to compete with the large chain stores and franchise restaurants. 2nd Avenue East should offer an alternative experience that attracts people to shop and dine locally, browse the stores, or simply watch the world go by. Drastic change is difficult, especially if it involves something sacred like parking. I believe our main street can thrive if we prioritise people over cars. We know what makes a place great, and our town has an excellent opportunity to create a vibrant and thriving downtown. I believe that valid objections can be overcome with the will of business owners and the City Council. We need to make Owen Sound a place where people actually want to live. And to do that, we need a strong downtown.